What's up guys, welcome back for another YgoPro duel video. Finally Nebula is revealed and it's on YgoPro, so let's try it out. Well, I think we already knew that the card that would be like fantastic, at least its effect, right? Like upon summon, draw like equal amount of cards, equal to the amount of cards your opponent controls, so that can be 1, that can be 2, but that can also be 5, 6, depending on how many cards your opponent controls. That's of course very solid. It's somewhat a pain to get it on the field, but you know, you're running like multiple engines, multiple cards to facilitate that. Multiple reborn cards as well, so to get it on board it's not that hard. But I think, and from playtesting again like a couple of weeks ago with the one of the new cards being, I believe it's called Contact the Gates, you know, banish 2 Neo-Spacian, special summon 2 from the deck. I believe the deck still has 2 problems, 2 very big problems. The first one is their smaller Neo-Spacians are, on their own, aren't really that good. Okay, you have Grand Mall back to 3, I believe, but again, it's past its prime in today's format where just spam your entire hand to the field, multiple boss monsters, multiple floodgates as in boss monsters. Grand Mall on its own isn't really going to do anything, so these monsters aren't that great. You can somewhat help with that of, you know, incorporating some draw engines like, you know, their themed Destiny draw, by the way, and the Nightmare shenanigans, you know, discard maybe a draw if you have a co-link. That's maybe something I want to focus more by adding in something like Phantom Skyblaster of facilitating the Nightmare combo. And of course the second biggest problem is, especially with Nebula, is of course getting its effect off. First of all, getting it on the field, but you know, after that getting its effect off, and there are so many cards that will negate or prevent that card from coming out that it's so hard to, you know, use its effect at its fullest potential, right? And again, so many negations, so many hand traps, and that's just, you know this deck's biggest weakness. Okay, let's see a couple of example duels. Okay, first example, BA opponents starting off. I think with the deck you definitely want to go second, I guess. I mean, going first, you don't really have like fusions or whatever to, you know, you want to go first, set up your negation monsters, or your board with multiple negates is something that Neo-Spacians don't really have. So going second, I think is the best. And the card that I recently added was Rescue Ferret. Again, Ferret definitely has its uses since it fetches the 2 Neo-Spacians needed on your side of the field, or, you know, potentially in your graveyard, since you can just use the Neo-Spacians for a link summon again. And you know, one of the best cards here in the deck is that Miracle Contact, I believe the name is, you know, the themed polymerization that you can send your Neo-Spacians or your Neos from anywhere, so including your graveyard and on the field, or from your hand back to the deck to go for the fusion summon. Definitely one of the best cards in the deck, but of course it needs setup, and well, you know, the Neo-Spacians do have a built-in Destiny draw that's definitely, I think, definitely a 2-of or a 3-of in the deck, since you need the speed, although the card does have a big restriction, right? Well, anyway, Monster Reborn to go for a Prisma, indeed. Prisma sending, I believe, the Neos, and well, just go for, you know, well, the Phoenix again, getting into the back row, so the Nightmare combo, the Nightmare shenanigans is definitely needed to, you know, here in this case Phoenix, to get rid of the back row, and then go for the Nebula, but I think I was only able to, you know, to draw 1 card, and that's again one of those core problems, right? Okay, Nebula has the potential to draw like 3, 4 or 5 cards, depending on how many cards your opponent controls, but again, if in like 99.9% in those situations, if your opponent controls like that many cards, he definitely has something to negate the effect, either Impermanent, Solemn Strike, or the Hand Trap to prevent it from coming out. So again, getting it on the field, and second, getting its effect off is so hard, right? Going for Beatrice, okay, that's good. Scapegoat is also something that I recently added in the deck. It's just, well, I guess generic support. It also supports your Ferret in some way. Link support as well, by going, you know, just giving the deck some extra attack power in the form of link summons. And of course, yeah, Borreload, Boral Sword are just 2 very strong generic link monsters, right? Here in this case, definitely needed. So Since again the Neo-Spacians and Neo's shenanigans, at least they lack something like this. Okay, you can go for the fusion summon, but you know the fusions, at least the fusion monster is just sent back to the deck, right, during the end phase. I get the restrictions, but it's just too much, I guess. Maybe there's like some gimmicky OTKs, you know, possible with the Air Neos, I believe the name is, you know, with Hummingbird, but I don't know it. I don't really like that approach, playing like all or nothing. Well, this is not really the deck that you can play like full control of grinding out your opponent, so potentially going for the OTKs is something that you might need to do, and maybe you might need to focus more on, like here with your Air Neos, but again, there's just like the current decks and possible, you know, opponents. It's just most decks are just like their core engines is just better compared to Neo-Spacians, right? So that, you know, Neo-Spacians definitely need other support, like as you saw, the Sky Striker engine is needed for some draw engine, some destruction possibilities, you know, with like a jamming wave or something like that. You know which card I mean. Destroy something from your opponent and the spell or trap. So you definitely need some extra support. Grand Mole was potentially, yeah, bouncing back, I guess, but again, it's just like a cheap 1-for-1 trade, and in back, probably, you know, back in 2005, 2006, that was definitely good, but in 2018 standards, nope, that's not going to cut it. This was a good one, but again, in those situations, very strange one, by the way, as well. So the opponent starting off with True Draco, revealing the anti-spell, and as you saw on the list, Twin Twister is not a main deck. At least I might want to add it in. Twin Twister also gets those Neo-Spacians in the graveyard to potentially, you know, use them for the fusion summon if needed, and it gives me spell and trap destruction. But yeah, maybe Call by the Grave or maybe Gamma is just better to, you know, like hand traps is just this deck's biggest weakness. Here in this case, going for Neos actually turns out great, using, at least it's just a bigger beat stick compared to his, at least one of his True Draco monsters, right? One of the desires, I believe, drawing into Imperial Order as well, but you know, with Rivalry on the field and the spell, it's like 2 floodgates already. So Normal Summon Prisma not going to trigger his True Draco monster just yet. Use Prisma now and then reveal a contact. The Miracle Contact, I believe the name is, it does have Imperial Order, but I don't really why. Wasn't he expecting the Nebula, whatever, to each their own right? So Nebula, he had 5 indeed, he had 5 cards, so drawing 5, but you know, as you saw during the end phase, my option, at least my plan, at least what I wanted to do, was using the Sky Striker token to, you know, have some defense quick play spell during the end phase, but eventually, you know, discarding the card. That's the downside of, you know, automatic duel simulators, I guess. In this time going first, that's something I really don't like to do, since I'm not running something like Warning or the Solemn Brigade to, first of all, negate the effect and getting rid of the monster. That's so important, and this deck, again, as I mentioned before, it doesn't have the potential to summon big beat sticks. Well, they do, but they're just bounced back during the end phase, right? So again, here in this case, he does have the one of negation, and as we see now, the one of hand trap as well, the second Ash Blossom, by the way, in his hand. So that's definitely too much. One negation I might be able to play around, not necessarily with this hand, but one negation, one hand trap, that might be possible, but 2 negations, nope, that's definitely too much for Neo-Spacian. So this is, well, I survive, I guess, but this is definitely game over. Last example, against Gravekeepers, the opponent goes, no, I did go first, and this again is one of those plays that I should be switching around, right? Just wait with your, you know, your themed Destiny draw and just use your Engage, right? I think I had 2 copies of Engage. Engage is one of those cards that can, as soon as you activate it, your opponent is definitely going to use a hand trap against it, preferably, of course, the Ash Blossom, and then you can use your themed Destiny draw, since that was definitely the superior play. So apologies for the mistake. So somewhat recover by going for Boral Sword. Boral Sword opening the 2 extra monster zones here in my main monster zone, so potentially setting up a Rescue Ferret. Again, yeah, searching those Neo-Spacians, get them on the field. It's somewhat like an alternative of random milling. You know, there's the debate of main decking something like Slash Draw, but I don't really like Slash Draw in the deck. Again, just to mill a couple of cards, maybe be lucky, but I don't really like that much. So Emergency Call, Emergency Call is not a deck, but it's also that is one of the searches that you can definitely main deck, right? Searching Prisma, keeping control of, you know, at least working towards your 3 monsters needed for Nebula. Maybe Air Neos as well, right? Potentially going for the OTK. I think he knows that I have what is called Grand Mole indeed, drawing a second copy, bit bummer. You know, drawing those extra like hero lifts or whatever is of course much better, but yeah, I think not really no, indeed, I'm definitely going to survive, but as you will see in a couple of moments, like again, the Grand Mole is good, but again takes up your normal summon, and yes, this is definitely a super solid top deck, but nope, Necro Valley is going to prevent the fusion from at least from coming through, so nope, no extra draws, no destruction, and no GG. I probably would have gone for the Air Neos, I think, and I think I should have been able to attack for a game, if I'm not mistaken. But again, this is the list. Like always, feel free to leave suggestions. The deck definitely needs work, but yeah, there are just as a final conclusion, and I think everyone knows that like there are just too many restrictions here for, you know, your Neo-Spacians, right? So we'll see if they're getting more support. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or like if you enjoyed the video. YgoPro signing out. Peace.